Welcome back to Queens of the Damned, a horror podcast. This week, we're taking a look at the best horror of the decade, as well as some we're looking forward to in the upcoming year. Enjoy, and happy 2020. One of my 5 was Hereditary. I don't know what the fuck to say about it. We've already done a whole episode on it. It was really good.
What do you think made Hereditary different from other movies of the decade? Like, what made it stand out to you?
I have a theory that, like, things have been building up to this point since, like, 2010-ish. I mean, I think it was kind of like a couple of horror movies that I'll probably talk about later kind of set things off, and then we had the, like, indie horror movie renaissance, which is probably still going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's probably, a lot of it's probably generational, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that people of all ages aren't watching horror movies, but there has to be something special about the particular climate right now.
Yeah, I liked Hereditary a lot, but it did not make my list, unfortunately.
Yeah, same here. I had it as an honorable mention, like as an extra in case we had too many that overlapped, but it did not make my final top 5. But I did obviously love it a lot.
Yes.
It still would have been in my top 5 if I had not avoided listing the same things as you. So usually, I mean, I did avoid listing the same things as you, but it still would have made it there.
It's still...
Regardless.
Yeah.
So what did you like about Hereditary more than you liked about other movies?
I don't think that I've been so frightened in a movie for, like, the longest time since I can remember. And I surely haven't been frightened like that before. I don't know how to explain it, but I haven't been frightened in that way before. I think a movie where you go and you forget to breathe while you're watching it is probably a good movie. So
Yeah. Didn't you say that you couldn't have the lights off that night or something like that?
Oh, yeah. I didn't sleep with the lights off for a while. But, I mean, for me, that happens sometimes. So.
That movie was really freaky. I still think, like, the scene where she cuts her head off with the wire.
Oh, my God,
That's still one of, like, the most unsettling things that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I really like really gory movies, and that was... Ugh. That still gets to me. I don't like that scene.
Yeah, I actually recently rewatched it because my friend hadn't seen it, and so we watched it, and I forgot how much that scene freaked me out.
It's like the sound.
It's the sound.
The sound is
like
horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I think another thing is that Ari Aster is really good at ambiance. And that's not something you can buy. Like, it's just an intangible combination of things that make its own atmosphere. And I buy into the atmosphere a lot. I really like to disappear into something when I'm watching it, and sometimes that's hard to do. And this was not something I had a difficulty with.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It also had an amazing cast. It had a good combination of unknowns and knowns, and just everything about it seemed to work
Apparently,
really well.
The kid who played the brother, like, was on Nickelodeon or something?
I believe so. Yeah, I used to know what he was in, but I can't remember
I've
now.
never heard of him before, but he was very good. And of course, I feel like Toni Collette absolutely deserved an Oscar nomination for that movie. She was robbed.
She did. Well, that kid was in the new Jumanji movies.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys have seen him, but he's in those. Yeah, he does a good job in those. He's a good actor.
Yeah, I agree that was one of the best of the decade. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely, no disagreements. We're all going to be really positive this episode.
Yeah, I think that if I don't know if I had to choose between Hereditary and Midsommar. If I could, I might choose Midsommar, but they're so different.
I know
it's really hard.
Yeah.
So.
We will probably have a group discussion about it soon.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
One of my top 5 was Get Out. Of course, which actually we've never talked about on the podcast. No one has ever done Get Out. No. The only time
I can't believe that.
The only time we really mentioned it was, I think, when I talked about that it had been nominated for some Oscars. And then
wait, didn't we do a Jordan Peele episode?
We did an episode
No, we
on
did one
Us.
on Us.
Oh, okay.
And like it got mentioned, but we didn't no one's ever picked it for anything.
Weird.
I know, that seems so shocking because it's so great.
Yeah.
So Get Out,
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it because it was unlike any other horror movie I've ever seen. I've never seen a horror movie that really brought race to the forefront. I have also never had a more awkward movie-going experience, which I feel like is what I was supposed to feel, since, for those of you listening that don't know, I am white. What a shock. But yeah, I mean, I was there with Sergio, so we were there as an interracial relationship. I was one of maybe like 4 white people in the theater, and most of them, I'm pretty sure we all were there with like dates. And there were things that I was laughing at, and then I would think, am I allowed to laugh at that? You know? And
Yeah.
and it really makes you, I felt like it really makes you kind of examine yourself and what you're actually doing, you know, because his girlfriend, her family, they come across as, you know, like the well-meaning white liberal. Like, they would never think of themselves as racist, even though they're literally like harvesting black men. They would never think of themselves as racist, you know.
I like that they went that route.
Me too.
With the antagonist, because, I mean, it could have just as well been, you know, KKK members or something.
Sure.
Someone who's really, really outwardly racist and, like, knows it.
Yeah, there's some, like, Martin Luther King Jr. quote that I'm probably going to totally butcher, but it's something about how the biggest threat to African Americans is not the KKK, it's the white liberal.
Right.
Because we all like to think that we're good people and we're not racist, but, like, what are we really doing to help?
Yeah, like the sneakier it is, the worse it is, or the more like nested it is, the worse it is, because it's so like under there, you know, it's so skin deep, like under your skin. I don't know, I can't talk.
Exactly.
So
No,
sorry.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean, and you know it, and when it was over, and the credits started playing, Sergio leaned over to me and he said, "That's how I feel when I visit your family and friends."
Oh wow!
Just like how the boyfriend
what a
felt
wake
like
up call.
this other, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, not to get like super into my personal life, but he's never dated a white person before me, ever. He knows no white people outside of my family and friends. And he still, I mean, we've been together for 3 years. We're engaged. We have a kid. But he's still, even at Christmas Eve when we were driving out to my dad's, he was like, "I just feel like your family doesn't like me." And, I mean, for no reason except that he feels so awkward. And, like, he has nothing in common with my family, you know? And so it really made me think about it.
Yeah, I can't imagine that goes away very easily.
No, I mean, he did not have a great experience with white people when he first moved to this country. They were awful because he didn't speak English.
No way.
Yeah, I know, what a shock. He learned English in like 6 months, but he was afraid to speak it for another year because when he would try, white people would be so nasty to him. What? I can't understand you. That he just quit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, people suck.
I know, it's really gross. And he was born here. You know, I always want to smack those people and be like, you know that he was born here, right? Ugh. But, I mean, anyway, so, yeah, I loved this movie. I was shocked at how great it was, because I think we have talked about this, but Jordan Peele, of course, came from, like, comedy. Key and Peele, you know, he'd never directed a movie before, and he just, like, knocked it out of the park, like, on his first try. And I love that. I love to see that kind of stuff. And the only thing that frustrates me is I feel like, yes, studios are willing to buy into Jordan Peele, but they're not, like, taking the hint that people want to see these kinds of horror movies. with,
Yeah.
you know, voices other than white people. And so they're not really, like, using this as an opportunity to
expand
the kind of writers and directors that they're willing to hire. You know, I know when Crazy Rich Asians came out, all of a sudden all of these Asian, no matter, you know, Japanese, Chinese, whichever, led projects all of a sudden got the green light because they realized, oh my god, people will watch these people on screen. And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But I'm very happy for Jordan Peele. He absolutely deserved his Oscar, so I'm happy that he won it. Daniel Kaluuya? Is that how you pronounce it? Kaluuya?
I don't know.
Okay. I can't remember. I had only ever seen him in an episode of Black Mirror, so I was not familiar with him at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not familiar with him at all, but obviously he has been able to use this to boost his career, which is great. He was amazing in that movie. Everybody was amazing. That's another one where I feel like the whole cast was great.
Yeah.
The woman who played the maid, she was so good. She was so good. Allison Williams, who I hated on Girls, this was like the perfect role for her.
You hated her character, right? Not like her.
No, I mean, like, I feel like she's an asshole in real life. I think I've heard that. I really hated her character in Girls, but she was so good in this movie. And, I mean, Bradley Whitford is the dad, and Catherine Keener is the mom. I mean, they were just fabulous, so well done to Jordan Peele. This was definitely one of the best movies of the decade.
I think the thing I liked most about it was I've never seen a horror movie balance comedy and seriousness so well. Usually it's like either a comedy intentionally or unintentionally or a drama.
Right.
But it really just like there was comedy in it, but I wouldn't call it a horror comedy. And the comedy was done really, really well.
Oh, yeah, no, there was a big controversy when it came out because it got nominated for Best Comedy at the Golden Globes. And Jordan Peele was like, this movie's not a comedy. Like, it has humor in it, but it is not a comedy. And he's like, and he and the studio did not submit it as a comedy. The Golden Globes just chose on their own.
How
That's
stupid
ridiculous.
to recategorize something like that when the director himself says it's like, even if it's just a question of branding, like you should go with what the director says.
Right. Right. And I mean, like, you know, there's always some fudging with the acting categories. Like if they think an actress has a better chance of winning supporting, they'll stick her there even though she's the lead. Right. Because they want her to win. But with movies, there's usually not. I mean, usually but it's like they don't know what to do with sci-fi and horror movies. The Golden Globes don't, so, because it's pretty recent that they are actually being nominated.
Yeah,
treat
they
them
need
like
to just make a
movies. How about
category. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make a new fucking category if you don't know how to categorize them.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
It is dumb. But anyway, that's all I have to say about Get Out. I loved it. It's a great movie. It has no flaws.
Get Out was also on my list.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty much said everything I wanted to say, but I just felt like it needed to be on my list because I think it started something during this decade.
I agree.
I mean, we pretty much already talked about it, but it started something very different. I think it's very clear that in horror movies, you mostly only see white people. And so I think Jordan Peele has finally started bringing in other people into this genre, and we desperately need it.
Yes.
I get so sick of seeing the same characters, the same stories, like all this kind of stuff over and over and over again. And with Get Out and with Us, there's these new perspectives. And especially with Get Out, I loved that movie mostly because it made me so uncomfortable and so unsettled because, like, even if you don't do the shit that the people do in the movie, you're still sitting there like, I know people who do this.
Right.
That makes me really uncomfortable.
Right.
And it forces you to kind of grapple with these issues that you didn't even realize were maybe you didn't realize were there.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, like, he just knows how to balance the comedy with the horror so well. I mean, there's a reason that we said that we think he's going to be one of the greats.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's definitely going to happen. I mean, I just rewatched Us, and it's an amazing movie. I don't think it's to the same caliber as Get Out, but I think that's mostly because when he made that movie, he wasn't necessarily trying really hard to make like a social statement. I think he said that. But Get Out was definitely supposed to be some kind of statement.
Yeah.
So that's why Get Out is on my list. I couldn't really not put it on my list because it's one of the best things that happened within this decade for sure.
I agree, and it got horror back to the Oscars, which is always a happy thing.
Yeah,
I noticed that we keep saying that like this movie I picked, I feel like it started something, and I was looking at my list, and it seems like pretty much everything that I picked, I felt like it either started something that's become a trend, or B, manipulated conventions of the genre. Like, took well-known stuff and made it, and not twisted it, but, like, manipulated it in a way that it serves people differently, I guess.
I agree.
We had a lot of that within these last 10 years.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that.
It especially feels like the last, 3 or 4 years of the decade. Yep. Like Nikki said, I mean, it's been this revival of indie horror, and you've got these small studios backing people who've never made a movie, or who have only made other indie movies, and now you have kind of a big studio that's backing them. So I definitely like that.
Yeah,
actually, piggybacking off of that, I know, Miranda, you didn't like this movie, I think, but I thought It Follows was...
That's okay.
It Follows was on my list, and it was probably the first time I saw one, because that was, 2014, so that's going to be, right about the beginning of this. This, quote-unquote renaissance, and I think it was the first time in a while I had seen a horror movie that I was like, that was so fresh. That was something, they can do this with a horror movie, and it made me so excited to see more movies like it. It didn't have to be loud. It was quiet. It was stylized. It really got deep into issues. And I just loved that. I had to put it on there because I feel like it started something for me. And there was that, homage to the 80s with the soundtrack and everything, which is don't forget where this all came from, but make it progress. So.
Yes, I really liked that. I felt, I was glad that they kind of brought that in, this new idea of, the final girl, I guess. And I agree with you. The score was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think even with movies like It Follows, which I know quite a few people that didn't like it, but I can always appreciate, even if I don't like a movie like that, I can appreciate that, like you said, they were really trying for something different. They were really swinging for the fences, and maybe they didn't quite make it, but I can definitely appreciate what they did.
And the fact that, I didn't have to go looking for that movie. It was really popular, and a lot of people saw it. I don't know if I would have had to go looking if I would have seen it as soon as I did. So I'm just glad that it was available to people.
I agree. I'm glad that it was a hit, because it definitely kind of opened the floodgates for, oh wait, people want different kinds of horror movies. We don't necessarily need a huge budget and a cast that everybody knows.
Yeah.
We can put a bunch of nobodies in it, and people will still go see it if it looks good. And was that A24?
I believe so, but
Okay, because that's the same studio that's done both of Ari Aster's
all
movies.
The ones we love.
Yeah, it's either that or Blumhouse.
Let me look it up really quick.
Because I think
seems like more of an A24 movie than a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah, I feel like A24 did The Witch.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And they did both of Ari Aster's movies.
Yeah.
I believe it's A24. My computer got really confused about me saying It Follows A24. What does that mean?
I'm on Wikipedia. Nope, it was... Oops. It was distributed by the Weinsteins.
Oh.
no.
I mean, that's, you know what? They're not getting any money for it anymore, so it's okay.
That's true.
Anyway, that was my...
That was a
Second
good pick.
pick.
That's a good pick because
Yeah.
I, like you said, I really feel like that kicked off this
Yeah.
renaissance of like teeny tiny movies.
Yeah. And it came out in 2014. I need to rewatch it because I haven't seen it since it came out.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
I was a junior in high school, so
It's been
You
a long
might have a
time.
different perspective now.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you
I'm
still don't
definitely
like it,
going
that's
to
okay.
rewatch.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're not the only person I know who didn't like it.
Oh yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there that it's pretty divided from what I understand. People either really love it or they really hate it.
I think so. Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
felt really
So-
strongly about it, which I love. I love when people feel really strongly about a movie, whether it's that they love it or hate it. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
So my next pick is a movie that I don't know if either of you guys have seen. We've never talked about it. I don't know very many people who've seen it. It's called The Invitation.
No.
I
Oh
did
my God.
see that.
I've heard of it though.
Did you say you did, Nikki?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
We watched it a couple months ago.
I love this movie. So I think it's still on Netflix. And that's the only
Yes.
reason that like I or anyone else has ever seen or heard of this movie because it got like no distribution in the US. So it's directed by Karen Kusama, who did Jennifer's Body. Yes, I know.
Sorry.
Which is great.
It's like,
Which is great.
It's a good film.
It's so good. I loved it. I was really not like, usually when there's like horror movies on Netflix that I've never heard of, I just assume that they're not going to be like really great, but what do you know? I loved it. So just like a little synopsis since Miranda hasn't seen it. So there's this couple who had gotten a divorce like a few years earlier, and they got a divorce because their child died. And they just like couldn't cope with being with each other, right? So the ex-husband gets an invitation to dinner from his ex-wife, and she says, "Oh, bring your new girlfriend." And so they come over, and he like starts to really relive his child dying kind of emotionally, and then he suspects that like there's something else going on. But like I'm not going to tell you, obviously. So that's kind of the basic premise. But this movie, it is very high tension, I think. There were definitely a few times when it got me and I jumped. But it's like not what I would consider a classic horror movie. I mean, it's very quiet. There's a lot of scenes of people sitting around and talking. But it's still really scary and you're just like kind of on edge the whole time. Like, something's going on. You have no idea what it is. And it's just like something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. And you're spending the whole movie waiting for something bad to happen. And then, of course, when bad things start happening, you're like, I fucking knew it. And, it's very well done. It's very, very, very well done. The performances are really good. Again, it stars a lot of people that I've never heard of, which I like. It does briefly stars the oldest brother from Haunting of Hill House, and I think he's the only one that I'd heard of, but it's really, really, really good. Really well done. Very creative. Very, atmospheric, like Nikki was saying. I mean, the atmosphere is kind of the whole thing. I mean, they're in this house with like these giant glass windows. So like they can see out, but things can also see in. And it's just really good. It's just I loved it because I think that this is a movie that could not have been made in any other decade. I mean, like we were saying, this thing with Renaissance of horror and giving these tiny budgets a chance, and I don't think that it could have been anything that anyone had heard of were it not for Netflix, which obviously is also something that revolutionized this decade. Netflix is giving us access to these movies that otherwise we would never see. Movies that if you don't live in New York or LA or Chicago, you're not going to get a screening of this movie.
Right.
You know? And even then, you'd have to go to, like, the art house theater. Like, they're not going to show it at, you know, Alamo Drafthouse.
Regal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's why I picked it. I also really, really wanted to pick a movie directed by a woman. Because I feel like a lot of the discussion with the rise of indie horror, all the directors people usually talk about are men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is true. The ones that I've chosen, most of them are
I mean, this one was directed by a woman, and then one of my honorable mentions was directed by a woman. But
I don't even know some of them, but I don't pay attention to, like, directors, which I should, as much as you do.
See, I don't really pay good attention either.
See, I do
super
because...
famous.
Well, Karen Kusama, I did because I knew that she did Jennifer's Body. But a lot of the time I do, especially if it's like Jordan Peele or Ari Aster or Robert Eggers, and they hit it out of the park with their first movie, then I really want to see what they're going to do next. So I really pay attention to, like, when they come out with another movie. So that was the invitation. Everybody should watch it, even if you've never heard of it. It's really good. It's not a waste of time at all.
Okay, so I guess speaking of movies that we saw because they were on Netflix, so one of my picks was The Ritual, which I've talked about, I think, probably when we did like best of last year or something like that. I don't know. I was on one of my best of lists again, but I really love The Ritual. I think when it came out on Netflix, there was like a ton of buzz around it. Everybody was freaking out about how scary it was. And then it just kind of like died off out of nowhere. And everybody completely forgot that it existed. But I love this movie. I still rewatch it all the time. I think it's really fucking creepy and it's suspenseful. The characters are really interesting. Again, like, I don't know any of these actors, so it's something really different. Yeah, I don't know what it is about this movie that keeps me coming back, but I love how emotional it is. I love how the events all tie together so well. I love the creature in this. It's really fucking creepy, and it's unlike anything I've seen before. The ending you don't expect. I mean, everything about this movie I was not really prepared for. And I just love it. And, like, beyond that, I just think it's a beautiful movie in general. Like, I can't remember. I know The Witch, when they shot that movie, it was all shot in natural light. I don't know for sure. I feel like this movie had to have been shot that way too, because it kind of looks similar to The Witch, where everything looks like it's just in natural light. But it's such a good movie. I love it. I know I've talked about it before, so I'm not gonna like go on and on, but yeah, that's one of my favorites that came out of this decade.
I agree. I really loved it. I love any kind of movie that has like a ritual in the woods, pagan, you know, what are they summoning, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I mean, I love those kinds of movies, and I agree that, you know, it's emotional. I mean, I think it presents grief in a very realistic way, and especially the grief between the friends, where a lot of them blame that guy for getting their friend killed, you know, when, like, and you think about it, like, would you really have come out and done anything? I don't know that the other friends would ever have...
No, they
would have done it, but I think it's realistic that they would be angry and lashing out at the friend that was with him. So
yeah,
I also really liked it. I would love to read the book.
I didn't know
is that an Adam Neville book?
It is an Adam Neville.
Oh,
yeah, and I think I heard that the ending of the book is different.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so I'm definitely curious to read the book. I've actually never read an Adam Neville book, but I have like all of them on my to-read list. So someday I will actually read one.
I've read one, but not that one.
You seem very thrilled by the one that you read.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I didn't like this movie, and I didn't like the Adam Neville book that I read. So
which book did you read?
It was the one with the dolls and the
No clue.
ventriloquism and I can't remember what it was called.
That I believe you. That definitely sounds like a horror book. Yeah, I've never read anything by him, but I'm a member of like a couple of horror groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and people are always like, Adam Neville, reading Adam Neville. So
I don't want this movie to be on my list, but I think it kind of has to be.
Oh no.
So, in 2013, The Conjuring came out.
I have The Conjuring on my list too.
Well,
but I legitimately wanted
it
there.
I love The Conjuring.
I put it in my honorable mentions.
I love the second Conjuring. I can leave completely everything else that branched off of The Conjuring.
Ooh,
really didn't like any of the Annabelle movies. The Nun movie was embarrassing.
Same. Yes.
No,
yes,
I
I
loved
agree.
Annabelle Creation.
I mean, it was
I thought Annabelle Creation was so well done.
a big old shrug to me. But I know, but The Conjuring, we had this like 10 to 20 year period where we only had PG-13 horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember coming out of a movie, I think it was probably The Great Gatsby or something, in the theater, and I saw a poster for The Conjuring and it said R on the bottom, and I was like, what is good? And for me, that like, it kind of started the like, it's okay for us to have R-rated horror movies again for some reason. I don't know. And it was actually good, and it was actually scary, and I still rewatch it, and it's one of my favorites. So yeah, I had to put that one on there.
Yeah, I put it on there because I felt like it was kind of a throwback to like older horror movies where there was no CGI in it. I mean, it was all like done with makeup when she gets possessed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was just like creepy. You just had like a creepy feeling, like you were just creeped out the whole time when you were watching it. And I liked that. It definitely reminded me of horror movies from like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, like just a good, creepy, classic.
Right, with
movie.
good acting.
Yeah, you can rewatch and rewatch.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it introduced Patrick Wilson to the wider world, which always makes me happy. I have known about him.
God.
I knew about him for years before that because I love musicals, and he comes from musical theater. And, yep. And when the whole world found him, I was like, I've been trying to tell you guys for years about Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't want this to be on my list. I think it's because I haven't really liked everything that's branched off in universe. I can forget about all that.
Yeah.
But
this was one of my favorites too. It just didn't make my list because of like
you had another. Yeah.
I had another movie that I liked just a little bit more. But I loved The Conjuring, and one of the things that like I will never forget about it was the social media buzz around it when it came out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember, but it was marketed as the scariest movie that's ever come out. And they had these signs. I don't know if they actually put them out at movies, but I remember seeing like these signs that they had to use for warnings for the movie that people are having seizures and all this different stuff. And I thought it was fun. It reminded, like, obviously I was not alive when The Exorcist came out, but I've read a lot about like what the buzz was like when The Exorcist came out, and it kind of reminds me of that, of how there were like all of these warnings of people like passing out and having seizures and having heart attacks during the movie, and I just thought it was fun. I didn't believe it. I kind of like bought into it just because I thought it was a kind of just a fun thing to play around with, but it was awesome. And I remember going to it with a couple of my guy friends, and I think I saw it a couple times just because it was so good. And it was the first movie in a long time that really unsettled me. I think before The Conjuring, the only movie that really unsettled me was The Exorcist. And then the scene in The Conjuring where they're like actually like doing the exorcism on her, that scene's still creepy, really creepy to me.
Yeah.
And the way she like flips up and ends up on the ceiling. Oh my God.
So good.
It's a great movie. I love it. I love it. It's one of those few horror movies that are like super in like the public eye that's actually really good. I feel like sometimes all of these really bad horror movies get a ton of publicity, but this is one of them that's actually genuinely very good.
That's exactly the way I feel about it. Like that something like this got so big that and I'm glad that it got so big.
And that a studio took a chance on it, because this was not an indie horror movie. I mean, this is the only big, like, quote-unquote big budget horror movie that I had on my list. But I really, I'm glad that a studio was willing to take, I don't know who produced it. I'm gonna look. If it was A24, I'm gonna flip.
Wait, was it Blumhouse?
I thought it was Blumhouse, but I could be totally wrong.
It's Warner Brothers.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's Warner Brothers. New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers. And it's directed by a man of color. Who is very attractive. Just to bring that up.
He has, like, within, like, the past few months or so, there's been a lot of talk of, like, you know, the decade's ending. Who are we going into the decade with as, like, our top tier horror directors? And everybody's putting James Wan on there, or Wan, I don't know.
I think it's
They're putting
Wan.
his name on there. Okay. Putting his name on there for, like, one of those top directors that we're going into the decade with.
I
and
agree.
He deserves that 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and now he's moved on to superhero movies. Which is what he deserves. Aquaman was so good.
It was amazing.
And Patrick Wilson was in it.
It was so good.
But I love that James Wan wants to put Patrick Wilson in all of his movies, because James Wan did Insidious. Patrick Wilson's in that. He's doing the Conjuring movies. He's in Aquaman. He's like following him from movie to movie.
I love it.
Which is fine with me.
Oh yeah. It's like how Mike Flanagan reuses actors. Like some of the actors from Haunting of Hill House are in Dr. Sleep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love a good actor-director partnership.
Oh, me too. I love when they reuse people.
Yeah.
Good pick. Well, since Nikki picked one of my 5, I'll do one of my honorable mentions. This is a totally different tone from the rest of the movies we've been talking about. I chose What We Do in the Shadows.
That was one of my 5.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Oh no.
Sorry, my earbud popped out.
You got too excited.
I got so excited about this movie. So, What We Do in the Shadows, written and directed by Taika Waititi, who's a genius, and Jermaine Clement, who's a genius. And it's just, I mean, for people who don't know, it's a documentary about 3 vampires who live together, vampire roommates, and it's them just like doing like mundane roommate stuff, but then also like being vampires, and it is like pee your pants funny.
Yes.
It is pee your pants funny. And I have not seen the TV show yet. There was a TV spinoff, but people have told me it's even funnier.
It's funnier than the movie.
It's hilarious.
Which you said pee your pants laughing. Like I am weird with comedy, but I was genuinely like crying laughing while we were watching that show.
Awesome. But I like how it kind of turned the like found footage genre on its head to be like this documentary, you know, like it was presented very seriously as a documentary about these guys, but it was just so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was
oh my god,
so
Rachel,
ridiculous. I know. I've got to
watch
the
show.
Or the show.
The TV show reminds me of it's like the same kind of humor as The Office, which is also a mockumentary, and I had a hard time I haven't finished What We Do in the Shadows, but I had a hard time getting into it at first because I had a hard time getting into The Office because it's that cringe humor, which I'm like slightly uncomfortable with it at times. Like the first season of The Office was really hard for me to get through, and then after that I was good because like first season is more cringy. But that's exactly how this TV show is, except it's with vampires.
Yeah, I totally get it because I love Arrested Development, which is also like almost a mockumentary style. but it's definitely cringeworthy humor. Like, there are times where you're so embarrassed for these people. Like, they're so fucking clueless. But I love it. So I'm really excited to see the show. But this movie, again, it skyrocketed Taika Waititi. I mean, he's got Thor now. He was in The Mandalorian. I love him. He's just my ultimate male crush. And again, Taika Waititi, and Jermaine Clement, both of them, directors of color. They are Maori from New Zealand. So I just, again, I love that an American distributor was willing to take a chance on this movie. And again, Netflix is the only reason that I saw it, because of course it didn't play in a theater here. It's just comedy gold. It is the perfect horror comedy to me. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I love it.
So, my next pick, I feel like hell has frozen over.
Okay.
Because never in my life did I think that a Quentin Tarantino movie would ever be on a favorite movie list for me. Because I really don't like his movies. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is actually one of my favorite movies that I've seen within the last decade. I don't know if either of you saw it.
No.
He did.
You did? Oh, Rachel didn't like it, clearly.
Is it a horror movie?
No, I wouldn't call it horror.
I would consider it a horror movie. Did you see the ending of that movie?
Well, I guess I would call the ending like an action thing. How many times do you think they said the N-word in that movie? Not that much, right?
I don't even remember them saying it at all.
Oh my god, he must have an editor. He loves that word. If you've seen any other Quentin Tarantino movie, he loves the N-word. I didn't dislike it.
Oh, okay. I loved it.
It's okay. Yes. No, you're in the majority. Most people loved it.
I included it because, like, most of the people that I follow that are in the horror community are considering it.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's invalid.
I mean, it's based on the Charles Manson murders. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see it. I just thought that, because I've seen his other films, so I just thought it was an action film.
Oh. So I consider it horror. I think a lot of other people do too. But I did not expect to like this movie as much as I did. I have never liked a Quentin Tarantino movie. I actually very specifically hate his movies and actively avoid them. So I was really surprised that I liked this one. And the only reason I went to this is the only movie I've ever seen in a theater by myself. And I went and saw it because it was like based around Charles Manson, and I've always been really interested in Manson. I don't know. This movie was amazing. To me, it's a completely different take on the Manson murders, and it's what if this happened instead? And it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the ending is insane, and you're just, laughing the whole time, almost, at the ending. But I love the movie. I think he did a great job with it. I think the writing is great. The acting's great. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, I don't think he could have picked better actors. Oh my god, what's her name?
Margot Robbie.
Yes, Margot Robbie did an amazing job as Sharon Tate. I think it's a great movie, and if it did not feel like a Quentin Tarantino movie to me. To me, I see his movies and they all feel very, they feel the same, almost. Yeah, but this one felt very different. It didn't feel as crass as his other movies. It felt like he was taking this one a little bit more seriously than others, which meant a lot to me because it's serious subject matter. But yeah, I don't know. I loved that movie. I actually just saw that it's out, and I'm gonna go buy it. I didn't realize that it was out on disc already, but I'm gonna go buy it because I loved it. I laughed so much in that movie. I was almost crying when I was in the theater. It was great. It was just so good. I can't even really explain it. But if you haven't seen it, I would 100% recommend seeing it. Even if it's just a fun movie to see. I mean, it's a good time.
I think we have it. I need to watch it sometime.
I loved the performances. I absolutely agree with you on that. I mean, I wish that Leonardo DiCaprio had not just won an Oscar for The Revenant, because I feel like they're less likely to give him one for this movie, and he was way better in this movie than he was in The Revenant. And Brad Pitt, great, love him. Margot Robbie, amazing. I wish that she had had more to do. I felt like she was kind of barely in it.
I agree.
Which is not... Which is actually kind of unusual for Quentin Tarantino movies, because he usually has at least one, sometimes several major female characters. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of surprising. I disagree in that I thought it felt exactly like a Quentin Tarantino movie, especially the ending.
Oh, well, the ending, 100%. The ending is like, yes, but the rest of the movie did not feel like it at all to me.
Oh, it
was
did
just
to
the
me.
ending.
I mean, I just feel like he has a certain style. See, and I'm actually not like you. I love a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies. Mm-hmm. I love Pulp Fiction. Yeah. I love Reservoir Dogs. I love Jackie Brown. I love both Kill Bill movies. And there were parts of the, like, before the ending that reminded me of Kill Bill in the writing and the, you know, kind of like the quieter moments and that kind of stuff. I mean, a lot of that's in Kill Bill. A lot of that's in Pulp Fiction. But yeah, I liked it. I am, like, resigned to the fact that it might win Best Picture over Parasite, which is bullshit. But they'll give Parasite foreign film as, like, the consolation prize. Yeah, they will. But yeah, I didn't dislike it. It was okay to me. It was not one of my favorites of his movies. But it was better than The Hateful Eight.
Oh, I hated Hateful Eight.
Oh my god. That was like the worst movie I've ever seen. That movie was
so bad.
And again, every other word
because
was the N-word.
People who like that movie will defend it with their life.
Oh, people who like Quentin Tarantino love Quentin Tarantino.
But especially The Hateful Eight. Like, people will just go on and on how good that movie is. And I actually tried to watch that one, and I could not watch it. I fell asleep halfway through, and then I woke up, and it was the exact same thing.
It was long.
The same thing was happening as what was happening when I fell asleep, like, an hour ago. It's like, okay, I'm done. I'm leaving.
It was very long. But people who love Quentin Tarantino will defend him to the death. He's doing a Star Trek movie, which... I love Star Trek, and I'm kind of nervous.
It doesn't seem like the right...
No, that's not a good fit.
I guess he's a huge Star Trek fan, and he's always wanted to make a Star Trek movie.
Okay, is he gonna do Star Trek, though? Or is he gonna do...
a Quentin Tarantino movie in space?
But that's a good pick. I like that,
anyways,
you did kind of an interesting...
That's what I have to say.
I think that's a good pick, and I like that you did kind of an interesting... Not necessarily, like, 100% horror.
Yeah.
I like it.
Can I pick a TV show?
Yeah!
Because for me, like, the first season of American Horror Story is, like, I don't know, it's very special to me. I'm gonna say that. It's very close to my heart. I feel like it really got me into horror again after the slump we had in, like, the early aughts and stuff. And I don't know how to describe it. And I've probably talked about it before. I'm sure I've talked about it several times. So, yeah, I don't know. Especially the first season, though. Because that's when, you know, everything, like, that's when they decided this is what we're going to do with this, you know. And, like, this is how it's going to be. And it's going to be more about the people than it is about the monsters. And it's going to be shot in this, like, very specific way. And and it introduced me to so many actors that I just love now. And, yeah.
Yeah, I loved the first season. I was definitely an American Horror Story. I was in at the ground level. I mean, I remember, like, being ready to watch the premiere, and I just loved it. And yeah, I agree. It was so atmospheric, and that's what I liked about it. Like you said, it was more about the people that this was happening to than the actual, like, spooky stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And all of these things were happening, and they just didn't understand why these things were happening. And the twists were, like, good twists.
They were.
Like, I will never forget logging onto Tumblr and just cackling when it was revealed that Tate was Vivian's rapist. I was peeing my pants because these girls on Tumblr, I mean, God bless them, the teens, they just had this guy, like, built up. And was this before or after we found out he was a school shooter?
Oh, I'm sure we're after.
I can't remember now. It's been so long since I've watched the first season. But I want to say that, like, they were making... and they were absolutely making excuses for him being her rapist. That
Well,
it wasn't rape.
They kind of did that canonically in the Apocalypse. They basically came out and said that the house made him do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was... But also Apocalypse, I felt like, was more, like, comedy centered about some of the other seasons.
It was, but, like, you know what they'd say on Twitter? It's canon. So.
Oh, I know. But I just remember seeing their meltdowns.
Yeah.
When it came out.
Oh,
that
good
he
God.
was
I can't
her-
imagine.
And they were making excuses that, oh, it wasn't really rape. He didn't want to, he just did it because he felt bad for the doctor's wife.
No,
okay,
he
well,
didn't.
you know, there are lots of ways
No.
to express the fact that you feel bad for somebody, and rape is really not one of them.
Not one. Nope, not a choice there.
And it just, I loved it. Yeah, I agree with you. It was so good. It was so well done. The reveals, like Tate, you know, being the rapist and Violet being dead. I mean, I assume, no spoilers, this show's been out for like almost 10 years. It's too late, people.
Yeah.
You should have watched it by now. But yeah, I agree. Loved it. And loved some of the subsequent seasons too, but season 1 was definitely my favorite.
And I cared so much about almost all the characters. Every single one. It's very hard for people to do good supporting characters. And I think Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk did an amazing job. That was his name, right? Brad Falchuk?
Yeah.
His name?
Yeah. And I love that they are kind of obsessed with, like, reviving the careers of these, like they're not just casting 20-somethings, right? They're casting women, you know, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you know.
And I'm loving that because there's so many badass women that I had I'd heard of them. Like, of course, Kathy Bates and Jessica Lange, and I'd seen stuff with them in it, but didn't realize how like, badass they all were.
Yeah.
You know, until I saw them doing this, like, fresh, new... And especially with TV, I think American Horror Story, like, really was one of the shows that took it up to, like, where TV is just as good, if not sometimes better, than film.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely one of the first prestige TV shows that now there's so many, you can't watch them all.
Yeah.
But it's so good. Such a good pick.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely deserves to be on a best of the decade list. Because, I mean, you had all sorts of people who were watching American Horror Story. It wasn't just horror fans. I mean, it was everybody was watching it, which I think is awesome. Like, being able to bring so many different kinds of people together like that. It was great.
Yeah. Gives me good feelings.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I really liked it. Well, let's see. My next one, I'll also pick a non-movie pick. So I'm gonna say, so this is kind of like Miranda's. Like, technically it's not horror, but I personally found it to be very scary. And I know a lot of people said it was scarier to them than a horror movie. But it was the second season of American Crime Story. It was the assassination of Gianni Versace. I don't know if either of you saw it.
Oh, I did not finish it.
Okay.
But I don't know why I didn't finish it, but I really enjoyed what I watched of it.
It's so good. It's so
it
good.
It's really good.
So
yeah.
for
I've
people who
even
don't
heard
know,
of that.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
It's on Netflix.
I need to...
Yeah.
How did that slip by me?
People who don't know, this starts the series, basically. And I feel like this is something that happened in real life. so it's okay to kind of spoil it. Plus, it's in the title. Gianni Versace was murdered. He was shot to death on his front step, and obviously Gianni Versace, the founder of Versace, and he was killed by Andrew. I'm gonna butcher his last name because I always do. Quanon? Can never remember how you pronounce it. But he was a spree killer who basically had killed a few people before Versace, and then killed Versace for seemingly no reason, pretty much.
Is it Cunanan?
I want to say that might be right.
Oh.
Cunanan?
I think you got it.
Cunanan?
I think Cunanan
Yeah,
is right.
Cunanan?
Yep, I think you got it, Nikki.
I think Cunanan is right. But he killed 5 people in like a 2 or 3 month period. And the last one was Versace. And it just sort of, so like I said, it starts with the murder and then goes like back to the other murders, to like other points in Versace's life. The cast is amazing, especially Darren Criss, who plays the killer. He won like every Emmy, every Golden Globe, TV award for this role and absolutely deserved it. He's someone who I remember kind of liking on Glee, but also feeling like not super impressed by him. But this totally changed my mind. He is outstanding in this. The other highlight for me that was a shock was Ricky Martin, who plays Versace's boyfriend. Like
the Ricky Martin?
Yeah, like Livin' La Vida Loca Ricky Martin. He plays Versace's boyfriend, and he is amazing on this show. I mean, I don't know if he's ever acted before. I certainly have never seen him in anything, but he's great. And the writing is great. I mean, obviously this is another one from Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk. To me, it was very scary. It was very creepy. It just is another thing that I felt like was just ratcheting up the tension. Like I said, you know, they start with Versace's murder, and then they go back, and you just are, like, waiting for it to come. Like, you already know what's going to happen. You know that he's going to kill Versace. And once it goes back in time, you're just kind of, like, waiting for it to happen, right? It's just building up this, like, dread. And, oh, it's great. Season 1 is not horror. That's The People versus O.J. Simpson. I guess it's horror because he got away with it. But
oh, I guess I did see this.
Absolutely watch.
Wasn't Sarah Paulson in the first season?
Yes, and she plays like a small role in the second season.
Oh, okay.
Because she's in all of Ryan Murphy's stuff.
Okay, so I guess I got confused because I thought The People versus O.J. Simpson, that was its own, like, thing.
Well, it's like an anthology series where, like, season 1 was People versus O.J. Simpson. Season 2
and now they do a different crime.
Right.
How did I not... I don't know.
Anyway, People versus O.J. Simpson, not horror, but absolutely watch it. It was amazing as well. And, like, that's another one where even though you know what's going to happen, right? You know he's going to be found not guilty. I remember it. I mean, I'm probably the only one old enough to remember it, but I remember the car chase. I remember him being found not guilty. Like, you know he's going to be found not guilty, but they still manage to keep you on the edge of your seat. Like, maybe he will be found guilty. You know? Even though you know he won't.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I know I'd love that. I wanted to see it when it came on, but I guess I don't know. I never did.
I believe they're, like Miranda said, I believe they're both on Netflix.
Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are.
Both very, very, very good.
Death Stranding is 100% on my list.
Ooh, no spoilers. I haven't played it.
I haven't finished it yet, so.
Is that the one with Norman Reedus?
Yes. It's so amazing. And it's so fucking hard. I can't even begin to explain. Oh my god. But Death Stranding was made by Kojima Productions. I don't know how long it's been in development.
Probably
long,
since they canned his Silent Hill, which I was really excited for.
Silent Hills. Yeah. Silent Hills looked amazing. that also had Norman Reedus in it.
I know. And Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Yeah. Well, and Guillermo del Toro was supposed to help with Death Stranding, too. He was supposed to be a character. And then for some reason, he just, like, wouldn't do the voice. So his likeness is in the game, but it's somebody else's voice.
Probably because he was like, you know what? You guys fucked me over with my Silent Hill. So I'm going to peace out.
Maybe. I don't know. But it's really weird that his voice is different. It makes me very uncomfortable.
Do they at least have an accent?
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least they didn't just have, like, a white guy do his voice.
No, but it's a different accent. It's just...
I get it.
Wrong.
Yeah.
You hear it and you're like, that's wrong. That's so wrong. It's not accurate at all. But the game it's amazing. It's beautiful. And it's heartbreaking. The story is hard. I mean, half of it is just like, it feels like a movie for the most part. It just feels like the longest movie in the world that you get to interact with. I mean, like, the first, I can't remember what Tyler told me, but it's like 2 or 3 hours worth of just, like, cutscenes at the very beginning of the game. So you spend most of the beginning of the game just watching the story play out. And then the rest of the game it's hard. It's really hard, but it's incredible.
What's the plot?
This isn't even hardly going to give much of an explanation. But the back of the game says, Sam Bridges must brave a world transformed by the Death Stranding. Carrying the remnants of our future in his hands, he embarks on a journey to reunite the shattered world. Forming connections within the world and beyond, the social strand system ushers in the new Strand game genre. Basically, like, the world is torn apart by something called the Death Stranding. And it's where bodies go into necrosis, and
Ew.
they turn, I can't even explain, they turn into, like, something called BTs, and they're these, like, supernatural figures that kind of, like, pull you to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a weird concept, and it's really hard to explain if you don't play the game, but you have a world that's completely torn apart. Like, everybody has lost connection. The whole idea of the game is to bring people back together despite the Death Stranding. And what you're doing is you're trying to piece America back together in particular. Sam is a porter. He just, like, carries packages back and forth to different parts of the country, but he is, like, given this mission of, you need to connect America again, and walk across, like, the entire country to reconnect America. And he can only do that because he has something called dooms, which tells him when BTs are nearby, which are, like, those supernatural figures and stuff like that. But it's a hard game. It's supposed to be really hard. Like, just walking in the game is extremely difficult because you have to learn how to manage weight with all the packages that he carries on his back. And the terrain is rough. Like, you can't just walk up a mountain like you do in Skyrim. Like, he'll trip over rocks sometimes. Like, the first couple times I played the game, I was just, like, wanting to throw the controller across the room because he couldn't even, like, walk over a rock sometimes.
Like, just lift your leg!
Yes! It's not hard! And it's hard for me to get past the fact that it's Norman Reedus, so I don't even call him Sam. I just yell at him, and I call him, like... No, I don't call him Daryl. I just say, come on, Norman! Get it together! Norman. It's not that hard! But, yeah. Yeah, no, this game's amazing, and Tyler and I are actually going to stream it. We just got our Twitch put together and stuff like that, so... Yeah. You can watch us scream at Norman Reedus.
There you go.
Deal with the Death Stranding. But yeah, this is one of the best of the decade, 100%. It's such a good game.
Yeah, I am definitely waiting for the price to go down, because I really refuse to pay $60 for a video game.
It's $35 right now.
On Amazon?
At Best Buy, it's $35.
Really?
Paul got it out of a Redbox for like $20.
Yeah, I definitely want to play it, so I'm glad that it's good. Because I've heard mixed things. I know a lot of people don't like it a lot because of the cutscenes. They're like, if I wanted to watch a movie, I would watch a movie.
But, like, if you go into it knowing what to expect, it's different. Like, I don't know what people were expecting from this. It's not supposed to just be, like, any other video game. It's supposed to be kind of like a movie.
No, I know,
And
but I don't think they
and
were
it, like,
expecting, like, tons
Yeah.
of cutscenes right at the beginning
Oh.
where you're not doing anything.
No, I mean that's what I expected. That's what I expect from most video games, though, is that there's a ton of cutscenes. So I don't know. It didn't surprise me. A lot of people are also complaining that it's just like a walking simulator, but it's a lot more than that. I'm kind of annoyed with the things that people are saying about it because I feel like they didn't know what the game was when they started playing it.
Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to the Outsider. Guys, I have all these things. I'm really looking forward to the Outsider miniseries. It's going to be on HBO. It's got Jason Bateman playing the lead.
Nice.
I'm very
I need
excited.
to read The Outsider.
I like
I
it.
haven't read it yet.
I liked it. It was good. Though it's going to be kind of weird to have Holly Gibney on the Mr. Mercedes show being played by one actress, and then having Holly Gibney on The Outsider being played by another actress of a different race.
I didn't know that she was in The Outsider.
She surely is. Is there anything you're excited for, Miranda?
The Resident Evil 3 remake is coming out next year.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. Oh my god. They announced the new Hellblade. I can't remember if it comes out next year.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? Senua's. Fuck, I can't remember what it's called.
No, but I remember seeing your post about it on Facebook.
Yes. Senua's Saga. I think it comes out this year because it's a launch title for the new Xbox, for Xbox X, I think it's called. It's like the dumbest name. I'm pretty sure. No, that might not be right. Hang on. That is right. Xbox Series X. But it's a launch title, and the new Xbox comes out holidays of next year. So, new Hellblade, I'm really looking forward to. I didn't play that game. I watched Tyler play it. I don't think I can play that game. It looks like Senua's Sacrifice looks so fucking hard.
It's not.
It's not.
I'm not super great
so...
at video games. Like, I like playing them, but I'm not necessarily good at them. Like,
Yeah.
I walk into walls all the time when I have to make somebody walk.
Yeah.
But I played it and finished it.
It's super trippy, too.
It's very
which
trippy.
is something I really like about it, is how trippy it is. So, yeah, in the trailer for Senua's Saga, just, oh my god, it looks amazing. I've watched it like 5 times now. It looks so good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm excited for that, too. I liked the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this author. I've never read anything by him. But his name is Stephen Graham Jones.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know
I've heard of
Stephen
him.
Graham Jones.
I've never read anything. I really want to. But he has a new book coming
haven't.
out next year called The Only Good Indians. And, so it says the Only Good Indian, and this author is American Indian. The Only Good Indians follows 4 American Indian men after a disturbing event from their youth puts them in a desperate struggle for their lives. Tracked by an entity bent on revenge, these childhood friends are helpless as the culture and traditions they left behind catch up to them in a violent, vengeful way.
Interesting.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I've never read
I've had a
anything
couple of
by
his on my
him.
list, but I can't believe I've never read anything by him because he's so prolific.
Me too.
And he just
Me
shows up
too.
everywhere.
Yes. And yet somehow this is the first book that I was like, is this guy's first novel? And then I get on Goodreads and I'm like, wow,
No,
I'm so
I
behind.
mean, he's like, he edits
so
anthologies and does...
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Alma Katsu, who wrote The Hunger, which I have not read yet, but heard good things about, has one called The Deep coming out,
I think it's about the Titanic.
which I would so love to read.
Yes, it looks. I
was
love
thinking
the
of
cover.
the Titanic and the ill-fated sail of its sister ship, the Britannic. Haunted ship story.
So I don't know if you guys liked the book World War Z or if either of you read it.
I didn't
I
read
haven't
it, and
read
I
it.
don't really want to.
I personally loved it.
Oh, you loved it, huh?
Oh my god!
Okay.
Yes, I did because it's
Maybe it was
nothing like
good.
the movie.
Yeah.
It's like a documentary. It's just this unnamed guy, like journalist, I guess, interviewing people about like where they were when the zombie apocalypse happened and what they were doing during the apocalypse or during the zombie infestation. And they really could have done the movie like that, but instead they made it like a straight scary movie.
Yeah, I watched the movie because I had to, and I didn't like it. But
yeah, I didn't like it either.
That sounds interesting.
The book is awesome, and I've heard that the audiobook is amazing because they get different people to do all the different characters.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. But he's got a new one coming out, Devolution, a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. I should tell Catherine about this book.
Oh, cool. It's about a Sasquatch massacre.
But it says, as the ash and chaos from Mount Rainier's eruption swirled and finally settled, the story of the Green Loop Massacre has passed unnoticed, unexamined until now. But the journals of resident Kate Holland, recovered from the town's bloody wreckage, capture a tale too harrowing and too earth-shattering in its implications to be forgotten. In these pages, Max Brooks brings Kate's extraordinary account to light for the first time, faithfully reproducing her words alongside his own extensive investigations into the massacre and the legendary beast behind it.
Ooh.
And also, I just love, for whatever reason, I just love that he's Mel Brooks' son. It just makes me laugh that, like, Mel Brooks, who's, like, king of comedy, has a son who's doing nothing but writing scary books.
Yeah.
Oh, Assassin's Creed also announced a new game, too. They're gonna do Ragnarok this time.
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah. I know all of the video game news because of Tyler. I don't know any other news except for video game news, clearly.
That's okay.
This is just sad, but at least I know something. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Assassin's Creed, too. I know that's not necessarily horror, but those games are really violent, so...
It counts.
They can be scary sometimes.
I'm also excited for, I know neither of you guys listen to this, but I love it. The Magnus Harmony also listens to it. The Magnus Archives is a podcast, and the final season comes out next year, and I'm really excited to see where they take it after how this last season ended. It ended on a huge cliffhanger. I was so mad when I was listening to it. I was like, no, you can't end it there! And it's really, really, really good, so I'm excited for that.
Well, before we end, I do want to just say that all of us had Midsummer and The Witch on our lists.
Yes.
We didn't talk about them because we've already talked about them, but all three of us very much so wanted Midsummer and The Witch to be on our best of the decade list.
Yes,
so.
And Midsummer was my number one for best horror of the decade, probably number one or two for my favorite movie of the decade overall.
Yeah.
I would say that you can't make me choose between that and Parasite. It's like choosing between my right arm and my left arm.
Although if I had to choose, I'd say my right arm.
Well, me too. I'm right-handed. But you know, I just can't pick between those two. Parasite was so good. It's not horror,
Parasite
but also it is really horror.
Me.
You guys, Parasite is definitely social horror. Like, watch it. Go see it, everybody. It's really great.
I did not see it yet, so I will.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Be prepared to be emotionally destroyed for the night.
And be prepared to be like, fuck capitalism.
Yeah.
Because, oh my god, Nikki, it's so good.
It is.
Is it out yet? Good. No, it's not out yet. There's no way it's out.
No, it was in the theater.
Not too long ago.
Yeah. Not too... Okay, I was just trying to look for the director of this movie, of Parasite, and I accidentally just typed bong, and I got all of these things about, like, where I can buy bongs online.
Well, now you're gonna get a bunch of advertisements.
I'm gonna get all those ads now on Facebook. I was just trying to see, because he's directed so many good movies. He directed Okja, which was amazing. He directed Snowpiercer, which was great.
Oh, okay.
He directed The Host, which is, like, one of the greatest monster movies of all time. This director is amazing. There's a couple that I haven't seen or heard of, so I want to watch them now. But he's amazing. And someone asked him why they thought that Parasite, was resonating with, like, not just Korean audiences, but, like, English-speaking audiences, and... I'll wait for you.
Sorry.
It's okay. I've done that, like, 3 times today.
I need to put both of them in.
They were asking the director why he thought Parasite had resonated with, not just Korean audiences, but audiences all over the world. And he said it's because we're all haunted by a demon known as capitalism.
Yep.
And it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Woof.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
such a good movie, though. It will fuck you up, but it's absolutely worth seeing.
Yeah, I think that movie was just, I don't know. It was depressing in, like, all the right/wrong ways for me.
Yeah, it's a downer.
It wrecked me for the night. Like, I think Tyler and I were gonna go do something after we saw the movie, and I was like, I need to go home and go to bed.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I
done.
did, too, after I saw it. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I need to go sleep because I'm so
Yeah.
depressed.
Yeah, I could not really function after that movie.
It was great.
Yeah, it's very good. It's just, it's very sad.
But really, really, really well done. Everybody should see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of horror, so it's on topic.
I think it's definitely horror. I mean,
Yeah.
again, like, all of the horror people that I follow are putting Parasite on their lists. So.
Oh, yeah, and
That's how I judge what's considered horror, is whether, like, the rest of the horror community is talking about it.
I had several Korean horror movies on my honorable mentions. So, some of those, I'll just say for people listening that we are going to be putting up blog posts with, like, our full lists, our top 5, and then honorable mentions, and not just movies, some other things too. So we will link to that on Facebook and on Instagram. So be on the lookout.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at QOTD Podcast, on Facebook at facebook.com/QOTD Podcast, Tumblr at queensofthedamnpodcast.tumblr.com, and YouTube at Queens of the Damn Podcast.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and TuneIn Radio. You can also follow us on our blog, queensofthedamnpodcast.wordpress.com, to find bonus content and extra information on our episodes.
If you would like to donate to our show, you can find us at patreon.com/QOTD podcast, where you can receive special perks as a listener for becoming a monthly patron. If you would like to make a one-time donation, you can send it to QOTDpodcast@gmail.com on PayPal. We'll see you next week.
Oh my god, the Elizabeth Warren campaign is texting me.
Oh,
I'm
no.
busy.